The Departed opens and closes with two very similar images. Colin Sullivan with a bag of groceries. Now, despite visual similarities, thematically, they are polar opposites. In the opening scene, we see Frank Costello give the young Colin a bag of groceries. This is the beginning of his induction into the mob. It is Costello doing Colin a favor. In order to repay it, Colin has to give him a lifetime of work. At the end of the film, we see the same image, only this time it's the representation of a normal life. It's him doing a daily activity with no mob connection. However, that came to an immediate stop. Of course, he never actually belonged in a normal life. If we rewind to just moments before he is shot, we can see him coming out of the elevator and reach down to pet the dog, yet this dog pays no attention to him. It's as if everybody around him knows that he doesn't belong, and try as he might to hide it, he can't. This is reaffirmed with the final shot of the movie as we see the camera pan up to the Massachusetts State House, which has served as a motif throughout the film representing Colin's dream of a normal life. In the background, we hear Roy Buchanan's Sweet Dreams, showing us that to Colin, a normal life will always be just that, a sweet dream. This is a film about desires and characters wanting more out of life than the hand that they were dealt. In the opening of the film, we are told about what happens to those who do not find a way off the streets. They die. In this area of Boston, the normal trajectory of most people is straight down. So we see our two main characters, Colin Sullivan and Billy Costigan, working hard and doing everything in their power to avoid this downhill spiral and to rise above it. These two characters have had conflicted pasts. Colin's mother and father died when he was young, and Billy grew up in a broken home with heavy mob ties who also lost both of his parents. When Colin was young, he was looking for an ordinary life. He was living with his grandmother and saw Frank as a father figure, someone who could fill the position that was left open after the death of his parents. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. Frank took him into the mob family and shifted his life off course even further. His connection starts to affect his relationship, his work, and almost every aspect of his life. It's something that he doesn't want, but due to the circumstances out of his hands, he is forced to help out Costello and the rest of the mob or face death. Throughout the film, he tries to find ways out. At one point, he considers trying to leave the Boston area with Madeline and start a new life altogether, but decides to stay. Once he has the option to kill Costello, he takes it. He sees Frank as someone who is holding him back, who is keeping him from having the life that he wants, so he takes advantage of the situation and kills him. But as we already know, he has spent the majority of his life as a criminal, and that catches up with him. Billy's history and end goals are both rather similar to Colin. He grew up in a broken home, one where his family on his wealthy mother's side looked down on him because of his father's side, and one where his father's side had heavy mob connections. The people on his mother's side felt pity for him, but that is never what he wanted. Once his parents died, he is left with nobody. He wanted to distance himself from them and find a true place where he belongs. He starts off by trying to join the state police, which makes some sense. He is going after the Irish mob and the people who have thrust him and his world into chaos. This is his way of combating his childhood trauma that he faced. However, despite his hard work and dedication, he is turned down because of his family's mob ties. Due to circumstances out of his control, he is treated differently and rejected from doing something that could give him closure. Instead, the only option he has is to try and join the Irish mob and act as a mole inside the organization for the cops, more or less forcing him to relive his broken childhood where he spent half his time with the mob and the other half in the high part of society. Once he infiltrates the mob, he starts having to do horrible deeds, making us ask the question, is it okay to do bad things so those bad things result in a better world? This movie shows the moral dilemma that is caused by doing these bad things. It starts to beat down on Billy, causing him to go insane, threatening to leave the program and start a better life just for himself, just as Colin thought of doing earlier. His redemption and the cure for his trauma comes from therapy and the bond that he forms with Madeline. He finds someone who he cares about and finds someone who cares about him, someone who gives him the strength to continue his role as a mole in the mob. Yet this strength leads him to his death in the line of duty. His desires to have a normal life have been thwarted because of crime. In the end, this movie has an age-old message, that crime doesn't pay. However, it also extends beyond that, saying that not only does crime not pay, but crime hurts. Crime hurts the people around it and will impact everybody, and there's no escaping it. This message seems to contradict a lot of the messages of Scorsese's other movies in the past, most notably Goodfellas. The main message presented in Goodfellas is that a normal life is, quite frankly, boring, that in order to get the most out of life, you need to be doing something. I think the reason that we see this in Goodfellas is that it's a story told by Henry Hill, somebody who looks past the bad times, remembers fondly only the good ones. Yet The Departed simply tells the story for what it is. There are no heroes, crime causes good people to lose, and in the end, there are no winners. Even though Colin was doing good things and taking bad people off the street, in the end, good people suffered because of his actions. The same can be said about Billy. He is doing bad things for a good cause, but he is still doing those bad things. He is hurting people. This becomes even more clear when we explore the character of Frank Costello, somebody who acts as an informant for the FBI, yet only does this so we can get away with doing more bad to benefit himself. He still kills people, he still deals drugs, and he still sends his men out to do his bidding. Yet despite his power position in the mob and despite his protection from the FBI, in the end, it doesn't matter because crime doesn't pay. Thank you very much for watching. The Departed is one of my favorite Scorsese movies and offers a lot of discussion. There's a religious element, a paternal one, a moral one. That isn't even mentioning the comparison with Infernal Affairs. If you're wondering, I think that they are both great movies. Infernal Affairs does some things better than The Departed, and The Departed does some things better than Infernal Affairs. Personally, I prefer The Departed, but that may be because I saw it first. Either way, they are both great movies and a perfect example of how the same story can be told two different ways and come out with two entirely different, but still great outcomes. Make sure you drop a comment and let's start a discussion. Next week we are going to be looking at Zodiac. It's a great David Fincher movie and I'll be leaving a link to that video on the right of the screen. That'll be out next Saturday. On the left is my last video where we explored No Country for Old Men. Check that out if you haven't seen it, and I will see you next week. Thanks for watching.